Hello, Miami. This is 305 Sports Now, your home podcast and channel for all things Miami sports related. I am Will, and joining us today is a very special guest and a very good friend of the show. Right, he is the occasional host of WQAM, but he is a very popular host of the very popular podcast that continues to grow, Locked On Canes. Thank you, Mr. Alex Donno, for joining us today. How you doing, sir?
Hey, Will, I'm doing all right, man. Thank you so much for having me. I hope you're doing well.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. Everything's going very well, but I gotta say one thing though. I couldn't help, we're Facebook buddies, and I saw, one of your friends tagged you, and you went and you attended a concert with one of my favorite bands, actually two of my favorite bands, actually, Disturbed and Breaking Benjamin. What was that like?
Oh, dude, it was an awesome show. I hated though that picture that she posted that she tagged me in because I'm in the background. I know exactly what I was doing because this was like between bands. I think that was between Breaking Benjamin, who played first, and they were great, and Disturbed freaking rocked it, man. But she caught me in that photo. I'm in the background right at the time when I was like checking on my live bets on the UFC event that was happening at that time, and I was not winning. So that's why I didn't look very happy in that photo because I'm looking down at my phone on my sports book at all the fights I was losing at that very moment. But the show was great, man, and Disturbed. They kept it. I kind of felt bad for Breaking Benjamin because they kept it pretty low tech for them because they played first. But Disturbed had all sorts of crazy pyros. I had seen them live before, but not in actually, it might have been more than 20 years. I think I saw Disturbed like '01 was the last time I saw them.
Wow.
So it had been a very, very long time since I think I saw them after their first album came out. It had been a really long time. I'd never seen Breaking Benjamin before, but it was a really good show.
Yeah, I had seen Breaking Benjamin live. They were on tour once with 3 Days Grace and Flyleaf, and they played in the Estero Theater, where they usually have like minor league hockey games or hockey games in general. So that was a nice show. Breaking Benjamin did a very nice show, but I've never seen Disturbed, so that's on my bucket list for me, man.
Yeah, it's a good show, and the lead singer, he had some pretty like passionate stuff that he talked about because he had recently lost like some friends to suicides, and they had like
Wow.
he had like a really passionate. It was like even like my wife was like crying. I was almost crying when he was. So it was just a great show all around.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, man. So I just want to get it out of the way, man. You attended, all right, the two of my favorite bands that are definitely on my Spotify while I hit the gym, man. So nice, man. I envy you on that one. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so for a lot of fans out there, they've been complaining about how the recruiting has gone this season. But you really can't blame a lot of recruits because the Miami Hurricanes did finish 5-7 last season. Even though they're still doing pretty well, they've got JoJo Trader, they picked up Marquise Lightfoot and they have Artavius Jones. But how do you since you cover the team quite a bit, how do you see the how recruiting has gone so far? And what do you think of a lot of the 3 stars that we've been getting?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really have anything negative to say about the guys that they've picked up verbal commitments from. So I think the quality of the players that they're picking up, and even some of the guys like you mentioned who are classified as 3 stars, like Judd Anderson, the quarterback, I'm a big fan of. He's 6'7" with a really strong arm. He started in a new offense in high school last year as a junior. I think he's going to perform really well as a senior in high school this year, and I think fans will start to realize we got ourselves a good one. Another guy who's a 3-star who I think probably should be ranked a little higher is Dylan Day, the safety out of Louisiana. Isaiah Thomas, the safety from Clearwater Academy International. I think he's starting to get recognized as a 4-star by some of the services, so he's coming up the rankings a little bit. Obviously, you'd love to have a 5-star like JoJo Trader who's in, Marquise Lightfoot, the 4-star defensive end, Artavius Jones, the 4-star defensive tackle. So I think they've already added quality. I think that the complaints that come from the fan base, and there is definitely some frustration from my side as well, is some of the players you thought, oh, we've got a chance for this guy, and you ended up missing out on them, like Justin Scott when he went to Ohio State last month, Colin Simmons, who committed to Texas yesterday. Now, Texas and LSU had been considered ahead of Miami for him for a while, but Miami seemed to make a little bit of a late surge. So there was some frustration when Miami didn't land Simmons yesterday. And yeah, listen, one of the things, you mentioned it, Will, one of the things that's kind of been working against Miami, why they've got a top 20 class right now, but not a top 5, top 7 class right now. 5-7 last year really hurt, and there are a lot of top recruits, either uncommitted guys or guys who may be committed somewhere else who might still consider Miami, that they want to see them play, they want to see them win before they make a final decision. But that's not the only factor, because you could say, well, how is Texas A&M? They stunk last year. They're landing a lot of recruits. Florida wasn't very good last year. They've got a top 3 class right now. So what's going on? I think that I think conference realignment, I think it's going to have more of a long-term impact than a short-term impact. But, being in the ACC is somewhat of a disadvantage for a lot of these big-time players want to be in the SEC. And another part of that is, Miami is no longer, in my opinion, way ahead of the pack in NIL the way that they were a year ago. Right. And, people are obviously concerned about John Ruiz's finances and what's going on with Life Wallet. I think there's more to it than that, because I think Miami, with the way that they've adjusted their NIL situation and the Canes Connection Collective, who's being pretty aggressive out there, I don't think it's as much about what Miami's losing in NIL, because I think that they are still pretty much on par with what they had last year. I think that others have caught up and surpassed them in some cases, like, because I think you're going to see some situations where, and NIL is going to be a factor for a lot of players. And when you're not only choosing between an SEC school or an ACC school, and then the SEC school is also has a lot to offer in the NIL department, it's going to be tough to beat. So it's the recruiting landscape changes by the minute, and it's certainly changed since last year.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's just that a lot of schools are just caught up with Miami. Although the thing is, John Ruiz is that he's just a very vocal donor to the university and in terms of the NIL deals. But if I'm not mistaken, Dwayne The Rock Johnson is also in on the game as well when it comes to NIL. And he's not broke. I mean, we all know that for a fact. So there's a lot more people, that are involved in giving kids deals and money, than just John Ruiz, who tends to be the more vocal of the sponsors, of these kids. So I think Miami's situation and NIL-wise is still pretty healthy. The problem is, like you said, a lot of schools have figured out what Miami's done, and they're just catching up. Or they caught up, or they've surpassed us. Whatever, however you see it.
Yeah, there's definitely been some surpassing in certain cases. Like when I hear about how organized, collectives and donors are at places like Auburn, where it's really, really taken off, and then somewhere like Texas, because there's always been oil money in Texas, but now that money's getting more organized, and they're into the SEC, which is a double boost for Texas.
Yeah, I don't want to do any speculation, but it's just a perspective based on a comment that was made by Colin Simmons. Colin Simmons hurt. I really wanted this kid. I'm not gonna say really, next man up. Although I like Booker Pickett as well, I hope we get him. But Colin Simmons did hurt. All right, it would have been the third year in a row. Still not done yet, but would have been the third year in a row that Miami picks up, a couple of blue chip defensive ends, to basically take on each side of the defensive line. But Colin Simmons made a comment that had me wondering. I want to get your perspective. I'm just summarizing, where he said that Texas put me in a situation where I could take care of myself and my family. Obviously, we don't know what that necessarily means, but could that also have meant an NIL situation might have been a little bit better in Texas than, let's say, LSU or Miami?
Maybe. I think it's also what I would also read into that is that he lives in Texas, so the family's closer by. So I think that could be a factor as well. Obviously it wouldn't be that far to travel to Louisiana, would be a little farther to travel to Miami. So that's probably a factor as well. I mean, for as much as we down here talk about keeping players home and having that home field advantage, like for a guy like Ruben Bain, who considered Auburn and Alabama, but at the end of the day, home was where the heart is for him. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that could have come into play with Simmons as well.
Yeah, good. All right. Yeah, just getting a perspective, because I was like, oh, okay, and we just talked about oil money, so it kind of just popped in my head. So I'm like, okay, so oil money for Simmons, huh? Oh, we'll see. From your perspective, we have a possibility of Miami landing 2 guys possibly this weekend with TJ Lindsey and the popular offensive lineman Isendre Afua. So from your perspective, who do you think is actually next? Who would you predict today? Alex Donno Ball. All right. Who would be the next person to commit to the Miami Hurricanes?
Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be either of the names you mentioned.
Okay.
I guess I could check in again on Lindsey, but I haven't heard a lot of buzz with Papa Afua. The buzz has really gone into Texas A&M's direction. I think that's probably where he's going to end up. I hope that changes because we could always use more interior offensive linemen. He's one of the best in the class. So if I had to make a guess who could be next for Miami, well, first of all, I think there could be a 2025 who could literally be the next guy because there have been some crystal balls dropping in for Luke Nickel, class of
Okay.
2025 quarterback. But if you're talking in terms of 2024s, um, I'd like to think Zaquan Patterson could be the next guy for a couple of reasons. The 5-star safety out of Chaminade, Miami has been trending the strongest with him out of the other schools he's looking at, and my understanding is that at Chaminade, their coach wants all of their top prospects to be verbally committed before their high school season starts, which is starting in a matter of weeks here, because he doesn't want them to have the distraction of a fully open recruiting process during the season. He wants them focused on their high school season. I think that's one of the reasons why JoJo Trader committed to Miami, last month, a little bit earlier than some people expected. So I think the timeline could wind up that Zaquan Patterson commits somewhere, hopefully to Miami within the next couple of weeks. So that's definitely one to keep an eye on. Yeah, I can't say with 100% certainty he's coming to Miami because I've learned my lesson. This cycle has been really tough to predict. All right, because there was one point a couple months ago where I felt like 95% on Justin Scott, and we saw what ended up happening there. I felt pretty good about Colin Simmons at a certain point, and Miami lost out on those guys. But I think if things play out the way they could play out, I think Zaquan Patterson could be the next in 2024 cycle.
Yeah. I think it'll be Kamari Franklin. Yeah, I think Kamari Franklin is one that I think might be the next one to commit. About 3 months ago, I had
Maybe
picked.
not here though. He's trending now to Auburn.
Oh,
Kamari and
really?
Franklin.
Also
Yeah,
Auburn's making a clear
yeah,
push. All right. Well,
yeah.
we'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see
We'll
what
see.
happens. I'm hoping for an upset. I was hoping for one yesterday, but we'll see. But I did pick Kamari on, about a couple weeks ago, so I'm still sticking to that one. Based upon his workout, how he worked out with Jason Taylor, as well. But yeah, but Auburn's getting some guys like they've done really well this recruiting cycle. I have to give them credit. They've really been pushing it quite a bit. But again, I'm picking Kamarion. Hopefully that does happen. We do need another interior lineman. Miami is going to rotate them, as per Lance Guidry's words. So we do need another defensive tackle. So, and I think Miami's a good spot, especially, since you have both Salavea and JT to be your coaches. So I think that'll be a good get for him and for the Canes. All right. So, a lot of us don't have the ins of practice. So Donno, what have you seen, so far in practice that's called your attention, going both on the offensive side and the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, so first things first, I've seen a lot of stretching and a lot of individual drills. I just want to make that clear that the media has not been allowed to watch the later stages of
Okay.
practice, which include the 11 on 11s, which is the juicier stuff. That's why I'm looking forward to Canes Fest so much for tomorrow because the full practice is open. But as far as what I've seen and who I've seen so far, I watch a lot of the quarterback receiver drills. I watch the tight ends really closely. I've been watching the defensive backs because you can get a sense when you're talking about individual drills. You get a good sense how they're moving, how the quarterbacks are throwing, who's catching passes, who's not catching passes. And Ray Joseph has looked really good, the freshman receiver. I don't think he's going to get a starting job this year, but I think he could end up being the second slot receiver right after Xavier Restrepo. I think he could be the next man up there. There's been some good stuff for Tyler Harrell, and there's been a lot of positive buzz just about his speed and his explosiveness. In the early days of practice, I got a lot of close looks at Riley Williams, the true freshman tight end. He looks fantastic to me. Again, I don't get the sense of how complete of an inline blocker he is just yet, but when it comes to running routes and catching passes, very smooth, really good hands, really fluid. Jaleel Skinner, another tight end, has looked very, very good so far. Trying to think who else has really stood out to me. Well, I've been watching the quarterbacks really closely, and the thing that's been encouraging about that, Will, is they've looked a little bit sharper each day, just going through the drills. right? First couple days, there were a lot more inconsistencies with the timing, hitting receivers, looked a little sometimes up and down, when they were throwing into the net targets as far as accuracy goes. And they've looked a little bit sharper every day. I think there's a good reason why everybody's really excited about Emory Williams, the true freshman, because he's got prototypical size to play the position. He's got really good footwork, and he's an accurate thrower. He's a really hard worker. Tyler Van Dyke, I've seen him throw some dimes in practice in recent days, so he's starting to kind of hit his like midseason form. And then I'm going to be interested to watch Jakari Brown at Canes Fest, because people have always scrutinized kind of his throwing mechanics and his accuracy. He's had some really good moments in drills, so I've been pretty encouraged by what I've seen, and he already has elite size and running ability if he can just become more of a polished passer. And there's a lot to like about the defensive backs, just in terms of the sheer size and length. James Williams, he looks really focused out there, and he's saying all the right things, and he looks like he's gotten even more chiseled and stronger. The 6'5" safety, and they've added a lot of length at the cornerback position. One of the guys who's really popped for me is Jadaeus Richard, who's wearing number 25. He just transferred in from Vanderbilt, and he's 6'2". He's got a wingspan probably of a 6'3", 6'4" guy, and he fills out the uniform very, very well. He looked really good in 7-on-7s the first day. Devontae Brown, we did watch him in spring, the transfer from UCF. He's been doing a good job. He's got that size and length as well. And Damari Brown, the freshman out of American Heritage, Devontae's younger brother. They rotate a lot in practice, but he has gotten some prominent reps with the ones and has looked really good doing so. So these are some of the guys who stood out to me. And then I know we want to talk about the linebackers as well. The elder linebackers, the experienced guys, cannot stop singing the praises of Popo. That he was described, like Corey Flagg said this, and Francisco Mauinoa and a few others kind of echoed this, that probably after the first 3 or 4 practices, the playbook has really started to click for him, and he's always in the right place at the right time. And then he's got that athleticism and the power to go with it, that he's really impressed guys. And there was some really good stuff in practice on Wednesday from Malik Bryant. The first day that they put pads on, Malik Bryant was running over people and doing some good stuff out there. So some of the freshman linebackers are standing out as well. And an experienced linebacker who I think looks really good, Maui Noah for sure, but also KJ Cloyd, who transferred in from Louisville. He looks the part, right? I can't wait to actually watch him play on Saturdays in September, October, November. But so far, KJ Cloyd looks to me like the type of guy who can really make an impact this year.
Yeah, going back to the linebackers a little bit. And we talked about, Bobo's been, a lot. I had the pleasure of interviewing him, about back in January, and the kid, if you were to remove his eyeball, don't be surprised if you were to see like a red dot, within his eyeball. That kid is an absolute Terminator. Okay, yeah. He lives, breathes, sleeps football. All right, that is his absolute passion. Even speaks like a linebacker. In terms of when he talks about, the positions within the linebacker as well. So it's no surprise, especially since he said that he was going there to take some spots, right before he got into Green Tree, that he's going over. So this is a good thing. And Malik Bryant looks the part, right? Malik Bryant looks like, when he's as a senior, he looked like he was already an SEC type looking linebacker. So I'm not surprised that the linebackers, especially the incoming freshmen, are doing so well in practice, because like one of the things that Mauro Cristobal wants is competitive guys, within his roster. And the freshmen that he picked up, fit that mold. Donno, what about the running backs? I've heard a lot about Mark Fletcher standing out in practice, especially from Shannon Dawson, who dropped a hint that he's going to be very special. What's your take on that?
Yeah. I haven't been able to watch Fletcher going through full contact yet, but he looks the part. And I know Mario Cristobal on Wednesday was talking about what a complete back he is. Physically, he reminds you of some of the backs that were coming through Miami, 20 years ago. He's actually even bigger than some of these guys, right? When you think about the Willis McGahees and the Clinton Portises of the world, like he looks like he's physically ready to go out there and compete. He's around 6'1.5", like I don't know, it's 225 pounds, something along those lines. I could see Fletcher. He's a complete back, but I could see the niche that he can carve out for himself as a true freshman is some third downs and some goal line stuff because he's big and powerful. And I think he can definitely play on third downs, even in passing situations, because I think he's big enough that you could probably trust him a little bit to block, right? A bit, and he's a student of the game, so he's got to be able to pick that up because if a young running back can't protect their quarterback, they're not going to get on the field. But I think he's going to be able to do that. So he's been really good from what I understand. And when we talked to because when we talked to the linebackers the other day, we were asking the linebackers about the running backs that they go up against in practice, and they've got nice things to say about the other new kid on the block, AJ Allen, who transferred in from Nebraska. I don't think he's quite as fast as Chris Johnson, but apparently AJ's really fast. And one of the linebackers referred to him as probably the second fastest running back on the team beyond Christopher Johnson. And Johnson, I haven't heard as much yet about how he's doing, but he's so quick and so explosive. You're going to find ways to get him on the field, whether you line him up in the slot sometimes, have him get some returns on special teams because he's got bona fide track speed. So there could be some good stuff as well. It's you look at a guy like Don Chaney who's fully healthy, but there's so much competition in that room right now. Chaney could end up being anywhere between the second string running back to the fourth string running back, just depending on how the other guys do. And I don't mean that to take anything away from Chaney because I think he's an excellent back. But I'm just saying, like, there's so much from Henry Parrish, who's probably going to be the starter because he's just an experienced, complete back. AJ Allen, Mark Fletcher, Don Chaney, Chris Johnson, and then Trevante Citizen isn't healthy right now, but when he gets healthy again, that's going to be a guy who's in the mix. So it looks like a really deep running back room. They just got to keep him healthy because last year they had some talent last year as well, but they couldn't get more than two guys healthy at once last season. So hopefully they can do that this year.
Yeah, last year was pretty intense because you had to walk on at some points taking reps, so that was a big thing. So yeah, so now one of the things I wanted to have you on, you are, the face of Miami Hurricanes on the internet with Locked On Canes. And I know you're going to talk about it on your show real soon, but Canes Fest is a yearly event that the Miami Hurricanes like to host to give fans, access to the players. Usually it's done at the facility. Now it's going to be at Hard Rock this year. What can we expect as Miami Hurricanes when we go to Canes Fest this year?
Well, first of all, it's definitely a privilege to be able to sit there and watch an entire practice because even the media doesn't get to do that. Like when they have practice availability, it's usually 35 to 40 minutes. So we all get to sit at Hard Rock Stadium and watch a 2-hour practice, right? So you're going to be able to have an opportunity to watch some of the guys that I talked about, from Tyler Van Dyke to Ja'Cory Brown, Ruben Bain, Popo Aguirre, and Malik Bryant. And, hopefully we'll get to see the kickers and punters doing some stuff out there as well. They're going to have a scrimmage in it. I'm sure that there's going to be some other stuff. Like, I don't think they're just going to stay there and scrimmage for 2 hours. So you're going to watch some stretching, watch some drills, and then they're going to have a scrimmage that's going to be not full contact because we don't want anyone to get hurt, but there's going to be some thudding and a little bit of tackling in that scrimmage. It's going to be a good opportunity. So you're going to get to watch all your favorite Canes players in action. One thing, and I'm going to write about this tonight at allhurricanes.com. I'm going to do a little bit of a Canes Fest preview in addition to what I did on Locked On Canes, but I would encourage everyone who's out there tomorrow or out there Saturday not to read too much into formulating your own depth chart, okay? Because believe me, Cristobal wants to keep his cards close to the vest on that. So obviously somebody's got to take first team reps and second team and third team reps at Canes Fest, but do not assume because a certain player at any position comes up with the second teamers or the third teamers that's where he's going to be come September 1st, because Cristobal doesn't want to show us anything. That's number one. And then, number two, there's still a lot of open spots, and they like to rotate guys a lot. They like to rotate guys like if people made a pretty big deal, which is fine because he's doing well, but people made a really big deal about freshman cornerback Damari Brown getting first team reps one day. But that doesn't mean he's for sure going to be a starter. That just means he's doing well. He got an opportunity to run with the ones for part of practice. That's all it is. Outside of Tyler Van Dyke being the starting quarterback, I wouldn't read too much to what you see out there in terms of the depth chart.
Okay. Donald, thank you so much for your preview of Canes Fest. Thank you so much for attending. Coming on the show today. We're very happy to always have you. It's always a privilege to have you on and to get your expertise and your experience in the broadcasting field and your Miami Hurricanes coverage. There's been some changes to where you are right now. Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So you can check out Locked On Canes is always in the same place. Just search on our audio feed, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your pods, just search Locked On Canes. And, the audio version comes out every day. We also have a video version that you can watch on YouTube. So search Locked On Canes on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We're literally giving you Hurricanes football content every day. Occasionally I'll take a Sunday off, but that's usually about it. We're either hitting you 6 or 7 days a week. We're going to have a post-scrimmage report after Canes Fest at some point on Saturday. And you can check me out during football season. I'm going to be doing on 560 WQAM. I'm going to be doing post-game shows for the Miami Hurricanes, and I will be doing pro football post-game shows after the Dolphins play as well, including preseason on Friday night. I'm going to be on after that game. And yeah, there's probably some other stuff. Oh, check out my I write at allhurricanes.com as well. So check all that stuff out.
All right. Alex, once again, thank you so much for joining us. Very happy to have you here. Ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to 305 Sports Now. Once again, I am Will. Stay safe. God bless. See you soon. And once again, for Alex Donno, once again, thank you for joining us. All right. Everybody have a safe day. See you at Canes Fest, guys. Bye-bye.